Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Balanced Life with Dr. Jacquie. I am so thrilled that we are embarking on 2023 together, and boy, oh boy, do we have some tips and tricks for you as we really try to figure out how do we go and get to where we believe we need to be. Each and every year, we put so much thought into New Year's resolutions, new plans, goals, new planners, and just really trying to map out what our lives need to look like. Well, the reality is life happens, and oftentimes we do not get to those things that we start out in the new year. So whether you're working on a vision board, putting together a new calendar, being all creative and doing a scrapbook and using stickies and a host of other things that we often pull out in order for us to be able to plan our way forward, today we're going to talk to our guest about what it means to really be your authentic self in this new year. What does that look like? How do you find him or her? And then how do you move forward without other people changing you, trying to turn you into something that they think you should be? Today, we are joined by our family strategist, Charlotte Avery, Pastor J.T. Johnson, our resident theologian and life coach, Dr. Tierney, our level up life coach, and Stacey Owens, our resident educator in all things balanced living. Hey, gang.
Hey.
Oh my goodness. It is so good to see everyone in this new year. And let me tell you, as things are getting started and we start to think about how we're going to move forward, I want to ask you each this question, because I know we talk a little bit about what we put in our balanced living toolkit. What is it that you are taking with you into this new year? What is it that you have learned about yourself through the pandemic, through the curves of all the things that we've had to overcome? What is it that you have brought with you into this new year that you believe is going to be a mainstay to keep you focused throughout the year? I'm going to start with Pastor JT.
I will say for me, it's patience. One of the things that I was guilty of was just running frantically. And during the great pause or during quarantine, I really realized that I myself had become a hamster on his own created wheel. And last year, I really started to find a balanced life, started to be able to give some no's and not feel guilty, and really started to make some true movement. But the thing that I had to learn is that with that, I have to give myself patience, and patience enough to take one day at a time, step by step. And if we don't get it done today, know that if God gives us grace for tomorrow, he has given me another opportunity to take a stab at it again. So patience.
Absolutely. What an excellent word to put into your toolkit. Stacey Owens, what about you?
See, here I come coming behind him today. And I like that. I was going to say patience, but I'm also taking with me just being present. For myself, I'm always looking down the road. Like I'm in the moment dealing with things, but while I'm in that moment, I almost look at it as if I have dominoes standing up in my life. So when I make this decision, if this domino falls, what is it going to impact? So I'm always looking down the road, so much so that I will miss the part of the journey that is just happening on that day, or in that I'm being present in that moment. And so you'll lose yourself, if you're not doing that, because you're always chasing after the next thing. So at the end of the year, I started to focus more on just learning to live in the moment, learning to appreciate what was going on for me so that I can enjoy not just the journey, but find the enjoyment in what I am doing at that moment. And then I think I want to keep that. I want to keep just living in the present moment so that I can make those connections for myself. Because you got to have enjoyment as you're doing these things in life as well.
Absolutely. I think that being present is a really great word to add into your toolkit, because as we stated, many, many times before, you don't want to become guilty of comparing yourself with other people. You don't want to get in that space of being discouraged because you're not being present in the moment. Charlotte Avery, what say ye?
Well, I'm just going to stick with all these P's that are going. And for me, I'm taking priority into the new year. And I'm asking myself, what are the things that I'm really prioritizing. If it's not a priority, if it's not something, if it's just going to be something that's going to just keep me busy and not focused on what my priorities are, and just really like categorizing my priorities, because making myself a priority. My family's been a priority, but this 2023 is really going to be about me and my priorities. Not that I'm putting everybody else to the wayside, but really doing the deep work for me and accomplishing some things that I want to do for me. That not necessarily entail, my husband or my children, but things that are going to be as a part of my personal growth. So I'm taking priority into the new year.
Absolutely. Another great word to add to your watching. Oftentimes they may find it difficult to really figure out where they need to land. And so as we're talking about patience and being present and having priorities, Dr. Tierney, what about you?
So I was going to say I'm bringing naps. That's what I'm bringing. But since my esteemed colleagues went with the P's, I'm going to stick with the P, and I'm going to say practicality, being practical into this new year. So sometimes that may mean I just practically need to take a nap. One thing that I've learned about myself is that I can get very big picture, and you heard me say last episode that I'm very tenacious. So sometimes that tenacity and that big picture can run me into the ground because I'm looking at everything from 5,000 feet. And sometimes I just need to get real practical, real basics, go back to the foundation. And that may mean, okay, I just need to take a nap. I don't have to go across the country. I just need to go and take a nap. Sometimes it just may mean that I need to have a conversation and not build this big strategy, around this thing. So I'm bringing just the basics, just the being practical into the new year.
So let me throw a monkey wrench into all of you guys' words, because there is this distraction that oftentimes seems to come up. And as we're talking to our viewers about who they're going to be in 2023 and what their lives can look like, there are distractions that seem to come along, whether it's our family members, our coworkers, things that happen in the world. How do you balance dealing with distractions in order to keep from being discouraged as you take care of self in the new year? Now, I'll go in the reverse order. Dr. Tierney, how are you going to manage distractions in the new year?
So the first thing is you have to recognize that it is a distraction. A lot of times distractions become distractions because we don't know that it's a distraction. Yes, taking care of mama is important. Yes, doing this for your kids is vital. Yes, making sure that this project is done at work is critical, to your job. But when it becomes the main thing that you're focused on and you don't see anything else, you're not focusing on the other aspects of your life, and that thing has your hyper focus, it can become a distraction because you're no longer paying attention to your goals. You're no longer paying attention to practicing self-care for you. You're no longer making yourself a priority and being patient or being present or even just doing the things that are practical because you've become hyper focused on this one thing. A lot of times we don't see the distractions because we know the little distractions like watching TV or things like that. But it's the big distractions that are important that we tend to overlook. So the first thing is just recognizing the distractions when you see them.
Oh, I want to piggyback off of that and ask Charlotte Avery the same, yet a similar question when it relates to the distractions of rescue, because oftentimes people with children find themselves not being able to stay center focused, and you're making yourself a priority. How are you planning on navigating the nuances of being a mom and a wife?
So, this question is so good because my life is filled with distractions. When school is in, I could be working on something and I get a call from school or I have to stop what I'm doing. And so one thing for me is that I really have to ask myself, what is this preventing me from accomplishing, especially when I'm taking priority into the new year? Because you know what? My children and my husband sometimes are famous for thinking that because I'm at home or because I'm working from home, that when they need something, because, it's always an emergency, like their emergency is supposed to be my priority. And I've let them know, your emergency is not my problem unless it's like life or death, right? Like unless the house is burning down or you're dying, you know, it's not my fault that you forgot to do something or you forgot to take something. So one thing that is really exercising my voice and my power of no, and saying, you know what, this is a distraction. I allotted, you know, a certain amount of time to get something done that it was a priority for me. And I have to ask myself, do I need to stop what I'm doing to focus on this person and their need? And usually if that answer is no, and it's not life or death or anything like that, or, you know, then I'm just not doing it. And then the other thing is I've given myself time to really look at, you know, even the distractions in the media, you know, social media, you know, can be an energy suck. And just so really prioritizing my time and putting myself on a schedule of this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm not doing. I'm not searching social media and all of that. So, I mean, it can be hard because with moms, I mean, everything can become a distraction, but you have to like ask yourself, is that a real distraction or is it just a dummy distraction?
It's really interesting. When we come back after the break, I want to dialogue about this just a little bit more because we do get in that space of not being able to really determine what's a real distraction and then what's just taking out air and energy from what it is we need to be doing. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we're back after the break.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And as you can tell, putting you on the priority list is extremely important. You have to be present. You want to prioritize. You want to make certain that you're exercising patience. But in addition to that, things need to be practical. But even in all of that, when you know what you need to do, you have a plan and a direction, there are distractions that have a tendency to come in and just really remove us from anything that looks like the plan that we had. I want to talk to Pastor JT about that for a moment, because there are often times that our distractions aren't necessarily physical, mental, or emotional, but they're oftentimes spiritual. Pastor JT, talk to us about those spiritual distractions that really move us away from those things that we are purposed to be, our why, and what we are trying to accomplish in life.
Wow. Great question, Dr. Jacquie. It makes me think about the infamous scripture, so to speak, from the Apostle Paul, when he was talking to a group of brothers and sisters, and he told them, he said, I have not attained it. He said, but one thing that I do, he said, I forget that which is behind me and I press forward. One of the things that I think that we look at, because again, me being a Baptist preacher, you know, we look at that press forward and we scream and we holler, and, you know, that's a great jumping point. But I think that there are 2 points prior to that I think answer your question. The first thing that he said is, his brothers and sisters, I have not attained it. So the first thing that he did was he got real with himself and he made it known. I'm going through the same thing that you all are going through. And I think that kind of goes back to what Stacy was talking about those dominoes. And so many times we put ourselves so far in the future that we're not in this present moment. And present moments cause us to evaluate some things in our lives, some people, some nouns, some persons, some places and things. And so then when we start to look at it from a spiritual standpoint, I believe that the devil uses those nuances or those vices that he knows that can easily get our attention. Because to be honest with you, if you hate okra, you're not going to be distracted with okra. Mm-hmm. But boy, if somebody loves German chocolate cake and every time you go over there, you know it's going to be there, and you have said no more sweets, that German chocolate cake is going to be there to tempt you. So that's what the devil does. The devil never tempts you with things that you don't like. because you don't need willpower then. It's just not the palate that your tongue requires. But then at that moment, when you do see something that you really desire or something that you really want, that's how so many people end up in the wrong relationships, because you went after what you wanted, but it really wasn't what you needed. So I think that knowing those nuances from a spiritual standpoint, the devil is always going to come at us with things that at that moment we presently feel that we want. And then in that, once that want is fulfilled, then we come out of it. Then logically now we open up, because emotionally we were charged and emotionally we were led. There's even a book that I'm actually reading now called Emotional Learning 2.0, and it talked about how things happen in our minds, but we process it emotionally first, and then we think about it logically. So that's how a person can have an emotional outburst and then immediately like, man, why did I do that? And it's only because our emotions are not in check. So I'm just going all around the world to answer your question, to tell you that one of the things that we may have to do more than anything is identify those things that could become a distraction, just as Dr. Tierney said, and then now write those things on our prayer wall and say, God, when those things come, please allow me to be so present in the moment that I can control me and my space and not have me and my space dictated by the culprits that I have already identified as time robbers. Because one thing that's not going to happen, when that time is stolen, time is not going to come back and offer you a second chance.
I think that you bring up a very valid point, because oftentimes those distractions lead to discouragement. And with that, it's in that space, as all of you have stated, that we aren't able to keep up with our New Year's resolutions. And I know I've resolved many, many years ago that I'm not a New Year's resolution kind of person. Stacey, when you think about the things that have the tendency to get in the way of us being able to move forward, is it a good thing or not to make resolutions if you're not able to keep up with them?
Ooh, let's see. I'm not the person to ask about resolutions, because I don't do New Year's resolutions. Like I do that every day, every month throughout the year. I'm always newly creating something about myself. But I think when you have distractions come in, or you have things that's always deterring you from what you were working on. I know I'm in that space myself right now. I love what Pastor JT just shared about how you're tempted with the things that you love. And when you are a person like myself, I'm a nurturer, and I have a lot of people who are plugged into me. So it seems like right in the middle of my biggest projects and my biggest thoughts and my biggest dreams, everything falls apart for my children or for my family members. And they look to me to be the person to correct their issues. And being the nurturer that I am, in the past, before I became present about this, I would always be hopping over to help somebody else. So now what I do is I like to, just now that I have a better awareness of that, I like to tap in and take 30 seconds to ask myself, is this a problem that I can really solve? Or is this an issue that's really for me? Or is this something I just need to give 20 seconds to you to help you have a better thought about it so that you can go ahead on about your way? But I definitely, after I delegate or reset them so that they can move on with their lives and not make it be my life to deal with, I don't come around and say, well, now that I missed this, let's make a new resolution to that. I just keep going to whatever my goals that I set for myself. I'm always working towards those goals. I'm always moving in that direction. And if something get me off track for the goal, I hurry up and determine, oh, wait, you're off track. Get back over here on your track or what you're supposed to be doing. And I continue to work to those goals. But I don't wait to the new year to set new goals or make resolutions. The research even shows when people make resolutions 6 months in, 46% of the people who set those resolutions are still working on them. So you can't be discouraged. So if you're always looking to how you can grow yourself, don't wait till one determined time to do it. Just continuously do it.
That's absolutely valid. Dr. Tierney, talk to us about that for a moment, because often people come into a new year and they are literally beating themselves up because, oh, I didn't do it in 2020. And we know 2020 was just one of those years, like everybody's plans, went out the window. And then 2021 and 2022 gave us a semblance of hope. And now that we're in 2023, seemingly somewhat free and clear from things that could get in our way, we're still now teetering on, should I or shouldn't I? Do I want to? Do I not want to? Help us understand and identify if we're going to level up in our lives. What does it look like to make a goal, a plan, a resolution, and then stick to it?
So whenever a new client comes to me and they're telling me what their goal is, the first question I ask them is why? Why is that your goal? Why is that something that you want to go after? And a lot of times I hear, well, because, it's like, and that's not a strong enough why. Your why has to make you cry in order for you to really stick to that thing and do it when the going gets tough. If your why is because someone else is doing it, or I just thought this would be a good idea, I saw it on Instagram or anything like that, you're not going to stick to it, which is why a lot of these New Year's resolutions, they fail. I completely agree with what Stacey just said. If your why is making you cry, it doesn't matter if it's January the 1st, June the 1st, or March the 2nd. It doesn't matter. You would get started right then because you would not be able to go another moment without going after that thing. So that's one of the first questions that I ask people when they come to me to say, hey, here's my goal. Help me reach my goal. The second thing that we then begin to talk about, and I've said this before, is kind of who are you? Who are you? Because some of the things that we may be going after setting goals for may not even be connected to who we are. I absolutely love the way that Beyonce is built, shaped. She's beautiful. That's not my ministry. That is not my body. I cannot sing like Beyonce. My body is not shaped like Beyonce. So why am I going to set a goal that I want to sing and dance? No, that's just ludicrous, but it's the same thing with the goals that we set in our lives. If you know that the sight of blood makes you queasy, then why are we going after, our degree to be, a medical doctor? Or, we have to be real with who we are before we can start outlining the goals of what we want to do. So that's kind of the 1-2 punch when talking about entering into either the new year or whatever season that we want to go in terms of setting our goals and actually accomplishing them.
That's very interesting, because when you were talking, I have to ask Charlotte this question, because stick-to-itness is a part of the reason why, in addition to your why, people cannot sustain, attain, and maintain that New Year's resolution. Charlotte, what is the value in stick-to-itness, being able to stick with something once you've, made up your mind that is where you need to be headed?
When you can be laser focused and you're really trying to get to the end goal, I mean, there is just so much joy and accomplishment met and felt when you really stick to it and you do the hard work and you say, okay, no, I'm going to sacrifice this time so that I can be laser focused on doing this. And, I find that, when I'm writing a new book or anything like that, it's always the end goal. It's always, where am I trying to get to? How long am I going to try to keep doing this, And so for me, it's, setting boundaries and time limits and everything so that I can be focused and stick to where I'm going, because there's a level of fulfillment that you have when you say, I did it. I accomplished this. I stuck to what I said I was going to do. And not only did I do it, but, because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, it's really the God in me that helped me to get there. And so, I just think that, we all want to feel the pride of accomplishment and really meeting our goals and our objectives and our projects. And so, there's just so much reward emotionally, physically. I know that we have people with us in our group here who have written books, and there's nothing like the accomplishment of saying, I'm done, I did it. And that's what I always want to feel. And I always get an endorphin rush, when I said, what, it is finished, I'm done. And I just think everybody deserves and needs to feel that, because once you felt it once, and once you do it once, you can do it again.
I think that's an excellent segue as we go into the break. When we come back after the break, some people are assigned to us and some people are attached to us. And in the new year, it's important to know the difference. When we're back after the break, we're going to talk about who you with. We'll be back in a moment.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And oftentimes, who you with determines how far you can go. And I'm going to bring in Dr. Tierney to talk to us about that for just a moment. So, Dr. Tierney, there are people in our lives who are assigned to us, and there are people in our lives who are attached to us. Talk to us for a minute about being able to understand the difference and just how far it can take us if we make the right decision.
Absolutely. I believe that was Lil Jon and the East Side Boys who asked that question, who you with, who you with, who you with, get crunk, who you with. They were onto something, because who you are with, who's going along this journey with you is vital. I literally dedicate an entire chapter in my book just to talk about this one topic. When you are with the right people who are assigned to you, that creates an iron sharpening effect. You're going to make them better. They're going to make you better. And the both of you together in partnership, relationship, community, whatever it is that interaction is supposed to be, it's going to excel. But when you are just with people who are attached to you, they're riding your coattails, they're just there, just hanging on, they are sucking you dry. They are taking and distracting from your gifts, your talents. They are probably your biggest distractions right there. When we have people that may want to just go with us, but are not willing to help carry the weight and support the mantle that you have on your life, and vice versa, that you're carrying the one that they have on theirs, then that can be a catastrophe. Seriously, even in the professional sense, I tell people I can tell just as good when somebody belongs to me. I don't say it at the beginning of our, the free session that I give, to my clients, because it can kind of weird people out. But I can tell within the first 10 to 15 minutes of talking to somebody if that person belongs to me, if they've been assigned to me, or if they're just trying to attach themselves to me just because, oh, that's Dr. Tierney. Oh, I want to get to know her. I want to know who she with, because then whoever she with, then I have access to who they're with. And those are not the type of relationships that you want to be forging. So you absolutely, positively have to take a look at your circle and see who you are that want to just be attached to you, or who's assigned to you. And understand that somebody that might have been assigned to you in one season might only be attached to you in this new season. So you have to, again, make sure just because they've been in your life for 10, 15, 20 years, that don't mean that they're supposed to stay for this new level, for this new journey that you're going into.
Absolutely true. And this is where I bring in Pastor JT, because we often get confused in the faith-based community when we talk about who's assigned to us and who's attached to us. Talk to us about that for a moment so that we can help our audience, those that are watching, who are people of faith. Oftentimes they value what we say and how we say it, and oftentimes we can't get it because of the messenger. So I'm asking you if you can help us identify and kind of ascertain who's assigned and who's attached.
Right. One of the things that I will say is it's dangerous when you are kind of like Stacey said, a nurturer. If you're in the faith-based space, we really feel what we believe. Like, we should be people of charity. We should lend ourselves. And I got that. But one of the most dangerous things that you can do is live based on your assumption, and that's not God's assignment. And so typically what we do is we assume that we're supposed to be all of these things for all of these people. And it's easy for us not to have people attached to us, but it's easy for us to go and grab people like we're putting them in our basket. So we are making them become our project. So they didn't even ask for our help, but we're going to go give it and give them sometimes unsolicited advice. And I will even take it a step further, and this may help somebody going into the new year. Don't assume that just because they have your last name, that is also your assignment.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there are a lot of times that we put a lot of unnecessary things on our plate. And I'm going to be honest with you and just going on to say it. There are some times that our self-worth is attached to their storms. So we feel like if we are not serving as their raft, or we are not bringing somebody an umbrella, then we don't have any value. But I need you, if you're listening to me, to understand, if you have given everybody else a raft, when your storm comes, you're going to be drowning in the thing that you were prepared to walk over or ride over, but you have given all of you to other people. Kind of like what Jesus said. So I want to take it back full circle, since I am the resident theologian. We always say, what would Jesus do? And so many of us, we know church and we don't know Christ. There's a whole bunch of things that we do under the guise of what religion tells us we should do, that Jesus is in heaven like, man, why y'all even worried? I'm not even worried about that. Why y'all worried about that? Jesus told us about the danger of casting your pearls before swine. There are two sides to that coin. The first side is you are casting your pearls to somebody that, one, can't even understand the value of it. So if they can't understand the value of it, they're not going to absorb it the way you think that it should, which is now going to leave you with a guilty feeling, or you're going to be upset and frustrated that they did not apply the value that you gave to them, or the pearls that you gave them. But this is the second. Oh, okay, let me add on to that, because sometimes we give people pearls out of season. It's almost like if you have a 6-month-old baby. Why would you give a 6-month-old baby a book that teaches them how to drive and they don't even know how to walk? We are now forcing people to take on information or take on our pearls when they are not even ready. They haven't even graduated to the place where they can handle cubic zirconia, let alone a pearl. But this is the most important thing. If we continue to cast our pearls before swine, when somebody really needs our pearly wisdom, we're going to be empty and we're not going to have anything to give. So I think, coming from that religious standpoint, I would say take it from Jesus. Jesus walked out of his own neighborhood, and the Bible says he walked away sorrowful because he saw that there was a need in the community, and he had the power. He was the juice. He was the juice man. But because they didn't believe, he had to shake the dust off of his feet and move on and go to a group of people that wanted what he had. So before you get bogged down and putting your feet in dusty situations, and the rain comes and that dust now becomes mud, and you get cemented in a place and in a season and in a village around people who are draining from you rather than pouring into you, shake that dust off your feet and walk according to your assignment and not your assumption.
I think that those are very clear indications of what both of you are saying as to why we need to stay focused on who we are so that we know where we're going and who we're taking with us. Dr. Tierney.
I want to highlight something that my brother just said, and I want to make sure everybody heard this when he said about the people that having your last name may not be, the people that you are assigned to. Oftentimes we get tripped up in this whole thing of the people that are attached to us or the people that are assigned to us, because we think that just because we have the same last name, we come from the same background, we look alike, sound alike, et cetera, then of course you're assigned to me. But honestly, I can tell you the people that have been truly assigned to me, they don't look like me. They don't share my history, but they share my destiny. Where you're going may not look like where you think you're going. And so God will send you people that are completely different from anything that you're used to. They may not look like you. They may have a completely different last name than you. They may not vote like you. They may have a different skin color, a different background, be from a completely different country. But oftentimes we'll miss that because they're so different, not recognizing that those are the people that are assigned to you. Those are the iron sharpeners that's going to help you get to your destiny. So don't overlook your assignment and the people that are assigned to you, because you're judging the people based on your history. Okay. The people that may share history with you may not share destiny with you.
It's very interesting. And I definitely want to applaud you both for laying that foundation to help us identify and understand how that can look. And I want to ask Charlotte Avery, as well as Stacy, this question, because when it comes to our children, there's a level of disillusionment about who is attached to you and who is assigned to you. And, just before we rounded out, 2022, we had a series of deaths among people who were considered friends. How are you helping children establish that baseline that everyone is not your friend and should not be assigned to you or attached to you? I'm going to start with Charlotte.
So, with me in having children in so many different age groups and all of that, we deal with the friend group thing. And, and I always, one thing that I tell my kids, especially when they're going through like friendship drama or whatever, I say, the Bible says, that there's a time and a season, for everything. And I'm like, this person in your life, their season just may be over. Like the reason that they came into your life may have been one thing, but now their season is over. And so in our household, we have a lot of conversations about seasons and timing of people who are supposed to be in your life versus people who now their season is over and they need to take the exit route. But I want to tell you also, as a parent, like it's really hard sometimes to say, to differentiate the fact that my child is my child. And so for me, I can say, well, my child is my child. I birthed them. They're my assignment. But here's the thing that I've learned in just my maturity is that there are different stages in their lives where they might not be my assignment. So I say, okay, I'm so proud to have people in my life who I can now turn them over to, and now they become their assignment also. And when I say that, I'm talking about like mentorship and godparents and things like that, who can have a better voice and a bigger voice or a bigger impact than I can, because I'm your mom. I don't know anything. So sometimes as parents, we have to decide, okay, I'm not doing well with my assignment here. So I'm so glad to have people that I'm gifted and that we're gifted to, that I can turn them over to be their assignment. And as a parent, you have to know when where that boundary lies and when you need to let go.
So, this brings us to a great point. And I'm going to take a break here because when we come back, I want to talk to Stacey Owens about that for a moment, because that level of disillusionment as it relates to who are our friend groups is important when we talk about how we're preparing our children for the future. When we're back after the break.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And we ended our last block talking about who's assigned to us, who's attached to us, and who we're with. But a part of that is this disillusionment of who are our friends? How do we select them? How do we release them? And Stacey, you being an educator and running schools, how do you, as an educator, help draw the line or help our children establish a baseline for who's a friend and who is not?
Wow, that's a loaded question because, kids, when you start talking about season, reason, lifetime, right? That's what we all sort of base our categorizing of how people are attached to us and knowing when to let go, knowing that they're just here for this reason and all that. That sounds good as an adult. But a lot of children, they're at that basic level of understanding of friendship. They just want somebody to play with. They just want somebody to talk with. They just want someone, to interact with. And a lot of times the biggest argument on the playground is today we're best friends until we say something that we don't agree with each other. And then now we hate each other and we're not friends. And we go through this dispute. And then before lunchtime, we're back friends again. And then the adults that are attached to us start trying to manage that for them and oftentimes make it worse because you don't know, like they're just mad for this moment. Like if you give them a moment to talk it out, they're going to be fine, a couple of hours later because kids just want to socialize. So it is so difficult teaching children to understand the attachment and alignment. So what we like to tell them is, go to your emotional intelligence, your emotional sense. What feels good to you? I want to be around someone that's going to bring me joy, that we can engage with each other. We're not arguing all the time. If you're in a sad, mad, unhappy space a lot with this friend, then let that person still be your associate. I teach kids early to use words associates, like that's your associate. That's not a friend. You don't know them well enough to be your friend. So get some meaning to defining those levels of friendship. Here's my associate, someone that I interact with, right? Start with that leveling and teaching them how to differentiate those different levels of engagement with people. And then when you're with someone who's bringing you lots of joy, continue to be with them. When you find yourself with people who you're fussing with, they're hurting you or they're bringing you those low vibrations, let them still be your associate, but go find another group. Start identifying who you can attach yourself to that's like-minded, that's doing the things that you enjoy, that's not making you make decisions that your gut is telling you not to do, but you're trying to do it just because of them. I think if we start at that basic level with kids, that usually helps. Now, when I start moving to my personal kids, see, those jokers are a little older now, right? So now they're young adults. Now, they're calling and they're saying, Mom, this hurt, this partnership, this happened, this happened. Now I'm like, okay, now you need to realize that person isn't assigned to you. A person that's assigned to you, they're going to come in, just like Dr. Tierney said, they're going to help, propel you to your next level. They're going to talk like you. They're purpose driven like you. Your language is going to be the same. They're going to be bringing things that like, how did you even know that about me? How did you even know that was a need of mine? God has placed every person in my life that was an assignment for me. I knew they were an assignment because they were coming to me and telling me stuff that I was dealing with. I was dealing with this thing and I needed an answer. And oftentimes they were bringing me the answer. And I knew that it was like a give and take in the relationship. I was giving and taking, and we were both progressive.
Right.
And then I figured out those people who were just attached. I have to tell my daughter all the time, those people who just take from you. So can you recognize when it's a one-sided relationship? They're attached to you because it's something that you need, and it's okay. But we often fall out of love with ourselves when those people who are attached to us fall off. And then we start thinking it's our fault that they fell off. And it's the hardest thing to teach my adult kids. Like, their season with you is just over. You don't have to say it's anything that you did wrong or whatever. You just have to recognize, I hope they got what they got before they left, because now that's over. So, I think with kids, just keep it simple. And with young adults, start putting the whole purpose to it.
Can I add one thing to that too?
Sure.
If it's okay. I think too, for young people, especially when they've been in relationships or friendships for such a long period of time, sometimes our children can feel like, well, if I leave this group of friends or I'm no longer friends with this particular person, that I'm abandoning them. Well, I don't really think it's, I try to make my children understand it's not abandonment as much as it's necessary for your self-preservation. Because the reality of it is, sometimes people want us to stay in relationship with them for attachment when it's really hurting us. And so, it's hard sometimes to help your children look at, you're not abandoning this person, but what you're doing is self-preservation for yourself. And so just teaching them those lessons of knowing the difference, because that can even be hard for us as adults. So imagine how hard that is for, elementary school kids and hormonal middle schoolers, and then high school is on a whole nother playing field. So
well, absolutely. Those three areas that you just mentioned, Charlotte, are that directionality that I don't think sometimes we put a comma or a period in as adults in their space, because we have playground friends, we have bus rider friends, we have walk home with friends, we have friends from cheer, friends from sports and athletics. Mm-hmm. And so all of these people play different roles in our lives. And so oftentimes we do forget that you are just there because we are attached, if you will, because of our activity. We are attached because we make good grades and we're all in honor society together, or we all cheer together. But the reality is you wouldn't be someone that I would go to lunch with. You wouldn't be someone necessarily, that I would hang out with after school. And so I think that helping children, young adults and adults identify the difference in how these relationships work can help us also determine how to ease out of those things that seemingly hurt us because we weren't really clear on the boundaries associated with that relationship. So when we think about those things related to relationships and how we ease out of them, coming into 2023, there are some people we need to leave behind. And so I'm going to ask each of you, rather than citing a person, what character traits or personalities have you left in 2022 and just are not going to deal with in 2023? I'm going to start with Dr. Tierney. Not necessarily who you with, but who you leaving behind.
I would have to say selfish people. And I'm not saying selfishness from the terms of like not sharing their things or their possessions, but emotionally selfish people. Mentally selfish people. Anytime we get on the phone, we're only talking about you and what's going on with you. And you don't have the capacity to be compassionate, sympathetic, empathetic, to stand with me in my situations, because everything has to be about what's happening, with you. These are often people also that when you talk to them, oh, girl, let me tell you what's going on now. And this was happening. And it's like, oh, and it's draining because it's draining everything out of you because the relationship is not reciprocal. Because it's very one-sided in that emotional, mental, space, and they're not able to be supportive because they're very selfish and they may not realize it. They may not know, but though that's who I'm leaving in back there. They can't go in 2023. I got too much on my plate, and we can't do that.
Absolutely. Pastor JT.
I would say non-believers. And I'm not talking about from a religious standpoint, because as you all know, all of the work that I do in the spaces that I float in, I'm with some people who don't believe the way that I believe. And they are some genuinely great people. I'm talking about non-believers, those that are pessimistic, that have no vision, that aren't believing for better. I'm only rocking with people who are believing for better, going after better, because I think going full circle and going back to who you with, there is a statement, I believe Jim Rohn said this: check your circle, check the 5 people that you are with. And if you're around 5 non-believers, you're going to be number 6. I'm only going to attach myself with people that believe like I believe, because then now when we sit and we have those conversations, we ain't draining. We're trying to find ways to pour into each other. So non-believers, 2022, I'm done with them.
Charlotte Avery.
I am leaving behind people who are takers. People who don't know how to, like Dr. Tierney said, that they don't know how to share or play well in the sandbox, because for me, I'm a very giving person of time, of information, of resources, of money and things like that. And, people who are just takers, they are not my favorite people. And so I'm just leaving them behind. If they're, like Dr. Tierney said, if they're energy drainers and time drainers, and they're making me feel, they always want from me, or they always want me to share a resource that I have, because of attachment instead of, assignment or anything like that. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for people who are takers. I don't do well with people like that because I'm not like that. I wasn't raised like that. But yet, people who are takers are, they're like magnets to people who are givers. And so for me, it's really asking myself, okay, and asking God, okay, is this person a friend, a foe, or taker? And to let them stay right where they are. I'm not taking takers with me into 2023.
Absolutely. Stacey.
I'm leaving them ungrateful jokers behind because they make your vibration low.
Yes, sir.
When you're ungrateful, you got your blessings going on and you don't even see it. And then everything with you is just a problem. You're not thankful for the small things. You're always complaining and just don't ever find the good in what you're doing. So if we start to lead with gratitude and learn to be thankful for everything, even the small thing. If you don't have your bill money today because you just spent it all on your Christmas and now you're in January struggling, just be thankful that you still got the job. Don't come telling me about all the things that you knew that you shouldn't have done for Christmas. So grateful people, they take your vibration to a low level. So I'm looking for people who can find all the things to be thankful for, because the more gratitude you give out, the more things that come to you so that you can be thankful about. So if you don't want them to be selfish and takers and all that other stuff, let's start teaching them how to just be thankful.
I think that all in there, Stacey.
Girl.
Did you hear her little hoop in her voice? Y'all heard her little hoop. She was about to go in.
I heard it.
Pastor JT, she might
run for your money. Yeah.
Let me tell you, thank you, everybody, because we're in this space and in this season, moving seamlessly right now into 2023, with being understandable in our way in which we approach the things that we do. When we come back after the break, I'll give my reflection.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And as you can tell, there are so many ways for us to approach walking into 2023. We're here now. We have crossed over that mark, and we want to leave our mark in this new season of our lives. But a part of being able to do that is establishing some ground rules about who we're going to play with and who we're not going to play with in the new season. I literally saw a meme the other day, and it literally summed me up so well. I'm not difficult to deal with. I'm just not easy to play with. And I want people to know that about me, because I come from a place of good intention. And so as I move into this new year and into this space, I want to be surrounded by people who value themselves, who value other people, who know how to walk in love, walk in kindness, who can put foolishness to the side so that we can accomplish great things together. I hope that you have heard something today on our show, A Balanced Life, where you're saying, I got some new tools in my toolkit. I've got more things that I can load in my arsenal that will allow me to thrive and survive. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye now.